What do you get when you take Kick-Ass's over-the-top violence and refine it to make it quick and more brutal rather than just more bloody, and then take X-Men First Class's premise with young mutants getting together to harness and train their powers, but change the mutants and turn them into young spies in training with only one spy being able to become a spy by the end of the training, and then throw in all the cool gadgets from all the old James Bond films and add all the spy tropes. So what do you get when you mix all that together? Well, it's in theaters now, and the answer's simple. You get the awesomely amazing Kingsman. So Kingsman is about this teenager named Eggsy, played by Taron Egerton, who's a bit of a punk and lower class with a stepfather that's part of some street gang. Well, Eggsy gets in trouble for stealing a car, and he remembers this medal that he was given after his real father had died, and this number he was supposed to call if he should ever get in trouble. To make a long story short, he gets out of jail for free and catches the eye of this super spy played by Colin Firth. And now this super spy has made Eggsy his candidate to be trained and to hopefully become a spy, but there's only one spot open because of this recently dead spy. Meanwhile, this tech genius billionaire, Valentine, played by Samuel L. Jackson, has this twisted plan to make the world a better place. Kingsman is probably the most fun I've had in theaters this year. The action is over the top, absolutely fun, and straddles the line between realistic and cartoony from time to time. The best way to describe the action would be to say that it's a mixture of Kick-Ass meets John Wick with a little bit of Wanted sprinkled in here and there. Now, a few of the action sequences towards the beginning of the film might not be as par as what I just told you, but by the time you get to the church scene, I think you'll realize this action is awesome. The church scene is easily one of the best action scenes I've seen. If Kingsman reminds you a little too much of Kick-Ass meets X-Men First Class, well, I understand because I completely see it as well. When it comes to balancing over-the-top violence and drama, Kingsman would be somewhere in between the over-the-top, sometimes more offensive Kick-Ass and the more dramatic X-Men First Class. Now, what I loved about Kick-Ass was it stayed true to the tradition of the rise of the hero structure, and it used all these superhero tropes to its advantage. It would make you feel like it's going one way and you'll think that you're totally predicting what's going to happen, only for the rug to be pulled out from under you when they turn it around to make it almost seem a little bit more realistic. Basically, Kick-Ass uses your knowledge of superhero movies to its advantage of making an awesome, crazy twist. For instance, there was that one time when Kick-Ass finally puts on the costume for the first time and is about to beat up these street bullies that have been taking his money throughout the beginning of the movie. And during most superhero movies, he would win and the bullies would be beat up. But of course, Kick-Ass doesn't do that because it takes the more realistic approach and turns everything upside down when Kick-Ass is suddenly just stabbed and run over by a car. What the hell? I love that, and Kingsman does a very similar thing which I won't spoil. Kingsman plays off of specific spy movie tropes, uses it to their advantage, but still does it in a respectable and honorable manner. I thought the acting in Kingsman was great. We have big stars in the movie like Michael Caine, Mark Strong, Colin Firth, Samuel Jackson, even Mark Hamill's in it. I thought our main character, played by Taron Egerton, was really good, and I think he has a future ahead of him for sure. Honestly, I was a little worried about Colin Firth being in the movie, And it's not because of his acting, because, I mean, he's phenomenal. He even has an Oscar to prove it. I was just worried about him because I haven't really seen him in an action movie, and this was an action movie where he's a super spy, and I was worried I wouldn't believe it that much. But turns out he did about 85% of his own stunts. So, yeah, that was really good. Maybe he could be the next Liam Neeson. But the one that stood out to me the most probably was Samuel Jackson. And I think it was just because he felt so different than what he usually is. Samuel Jackson is really good at playing the intimidating badass. But in this one, he was a bit of a techno nerd that appalled violence and was still the bad guy. It was pretty different. And he spoke with a lisp the entire time. So he sounded a little bit like a mixture of Waterboy meets Mike Tyson, sort of. And turns out that was his own idea, too, to do it that way. And it's a little jarring at first because we're so used to Samuel Jackson's voice, and it just felt a little weird at first. But as the movie progressed, I realized this makes sense, and it makes the character. And it's really nice that he could still be intimidating and twisted in a totally different way than he usually can be. Like, there was this whole scene with him and Colin Firth talking about old spy movies. One of the best scenes in the whole movie. Now, I don't really have any complaints for the movie, but I can understand some people having complaints. There's been some people that say that they don't understand what Kingsman is trying to be and all that. And I kind of understand, especially if you haven't seen Kick-Ass and don't know what you're going into. Because I don't usually say you should see this movie before you go see another movie. But I think if you haven't seen Kick-Ass and you kind of want to know what Kingsman is all about, you probably want to see Kick-Ass first. Now, you may not like Kick-Ass at all, but you can still like Kingsman still. It's just that they use some of the same techniques that they use in Kick-Ass as they use in Kingsman. So yeah, I didn't really have any problems with Kingsman. I absolutely loved the movie, and there's only one score I can give something like that. Here we go, people. First ever for me. At least first ever for me on YouTube. 5 stars. Yeah, I just absolutely loved Kingsman. I thought it was amazing and easily tops the movies I've seen this year. I mean, I love Selma, Predestination, and Paddington as well, but I don't know, there was, at least with those, I had like maybe some tiny little flaw that I didn't like as much. But Kingsman, there was nothing I really disliked about the film, and I loved the whole thing. So it has a 5-star score, so if you guys like other movies better, then that's fine. It's your opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. So, have you seen Kingsman? What did you think about it? And if you haven't seen it, then what is your favorite spy movie of all time? Me, I would probably have to go with some sort of James Bond movie, so I would say Skyfall, but GoldenEye is really good too. Those are my top 2 James Bond films. So, this was Bruce Gifford, and this was Just My Opinion.